The old movie theater on Maple Street looked like a building that had stopped breathing a long time ago. Its sign was broken, with only a few letters still hanging. The glass doors were dusty, and the posters inside the front display were so faded that the faces on them looked like shadows. People in the town had walked past it for years, but most of them never asked questions. They simply said it was closed, it was unsafe, and it was better to leave it alone. But one morning, everything changed. The city had finally sold the land to a developer. The plan was simple: tear down the theater, clear the space, and build new shops. A demolition crew arrived early, when the street was quiet and the air still felt cold. The crew leader was a man named Mark. He was in his late 30s, strong, serious, and always focused on finishing the job. He had worked on many old buildings, and he knew most of them held nothing but dust and broken wood. With him were Sam, a quiet worker who noticed small details, and Leo, younger, talkative, and always trying to make people laugh. Leo loved to joke when things felt boring, and Mark often told him to save his energy for work. They put on helmets, gloves, and masks. Then the machines started. The first hour went as expected. The front wall cracked. Old bricks fell. Dust rose and floated through the morning light. Inside the building, the smell was strange, like wet paper mixed with old paint. The lobby was full of torn carpet and broken signs. A few dusty seats were still lined up near the entrance, as if people might return one day. Sam walked slowly through the lobby, shining his flashlight around. The beam moved across a poster that was half peeled from the wall. The title was still readable, but the rest was gone. Under the poster, there were scratches on the wall, like someone had dragged something heavy across the floor long ago. Leo pointed toward the snack counter. "Look at this," he said. "It still has old cups. Imagine someone buying popcorn here." Mark did not smile. "Stay alert," he said. "Old buildings can be dangerous." They moved deeper into the theater. The main hall was dark, and the rows of seats looked like tired soldiers. The screen was ripped and hanging, and the ceiling lights were broken. The air felt colder in there, as if the building was holding on to winter. Mark gave instructions, and the crew began removing the seats and tearing down sections of the walls. The plan was to clear the inside first, then bring down the larger structure. While the machines worked, Sam kept walking around, studying the walls. He had a habit of looking at how things were built. He noticed how the bricks lined up, how the paint changed color, how some parts looked newer than others. Then he saw something that made him stop. One wall near the back corner looked different. It was not just cracked plaster like the rest. It was thick, clean, and solid. The bricks were not the same size. The cement looked newer. Even the paint had a slightly different shade, like someone had tried to match it but failed. Sam ran his hand over the surface. It felt colder than the other walls. He tapped it lightly with his hammer. The sound was dull, heavy, not hollow like an old wall should be. He called Mark. "This section is strange," Sam said. Mark walked over, eyes narrow. "Strange how?" Sam pointed. "The bricks are different. This looks like it was built later." Leo came over too. "Maybe they repaired water damage," he said. "Old buildings always have repairs." Sam shook his head. "This is more than a repair. It is too solid. Like someone wanted it to stay." Mark stared at it for a long moment. Mark was not the type to panic, but he did not ignore things either. He stepped closer, pressed his ear to the wall, and knocked with his knuckles. Same dull sound. "All right," Mark said. "We will open it carefully. No rushing." The machine operator moved in, and the crew cleared the area. Mark told Leo to stand back. He told Sam to stay near him. The machine's metal tool pressed into the wall. The first crack sounded sharp, like thunder in a closed room. Dust fell. Small chunks of brick dropped to the ground. The tool pressed again, and the opening widened. That was when the air changed. A cold rush came through the crack, like the building had been hiding a freezer behind the wall. It carried a smell too, not rotten, not harmful, but old. like paper sealed away for decades. Leo stopped joking. His face became serious. Sam leaned forward and aimed his flashlight through the gap. His eyes widened. "There is space behind it," he said. Mark told the machine operator to stop. He wanted to see it himself. With a crowbar, Mark removed a few more bricks by hand. The opening became large enough for them to look inside. The flashlight beam landed on smooth concrete. Not broken wood. Not pipes. Not a simple storage area. It was a room. A hidden room that had been sealed behind a wall. The room was not large, but it was built neatly, like someone planned it. The floor was clean, with very little dust. Along the side were wooden shelves, and on those shelves were metal boxes lined up in rows. The boxes were not random. They were placed carefully, like a library. Each box had a label. Sam read one aloud. June 1987. Box 4. Leo swallowed. Why would someone hide boxes behind a wall? Mark reached toward the closest box, then paused. He looked at Sam and Leo. "No touching until we think," he said. Sam nodded. "We should tell the city." But curiosity is a powerful thing, and Mark was human. He needed to know what he was looking at. He opened one box carefully. Inside were stacks of papers tied with string. There were also photographs and small film reels wrapped in cloth. Everything looked organized and protected. Mark lifted the top photograph and studied it. The photo showed people standing in front of the theater. Families. Couples. Kids holding drinks. Everyone looked happy, like it was a normal movie night. The theater's sign was lit in the photo, and the lobby looked clean. Sam leaned closer. "That does not make sense," he said. Leo looked confused. "Why?" Sam pointed at the label on the box. "This is dated years after the theater closed." Leo frowned. "Maybe the date is wrong." Mark picked up another photo. Different people, but same theater, same entrance. The style of clothes looked newer than the theater's old posters. One person in the photo held a phone that looked modern. Mark's stomach tightened. The theater had been closed for decades. Everyone in town knew that. The doors had been locked. The windows had been boarded up. It had become a rumor, a landmark, and nothing more. So how could these photos exist? Sam slowly scanned the shelves with his flashlight. "There are many boxes," he said. "Too many." Leo whispered, "What if someone was using this place?" Mark did not answer right away. He took a deep breath and stepped back from the opening. His instincts told him one thing: this was not normal, and it was not his job to solve it alone. He pulled out his phone and called the city office. He explained what they found, keeping his voice calm. He said they discovered a sealed room and labeled boxes with papers and film reels. He asked for someone to come immediately. Within an hour, city officials arrived. Then police. Then people in serious suits who asked careful questions. The worksite was blocked off with tape. The demolition machines were shut down. Mark and his crew were told to stay outside. As the sun set, news vans rolled onto Maple Street. Cameras pointed at the theater like it had become famous overnight. Neighbors came out of their houses, whispering and staring. Some looked scared. Some looked excited. Most looked confused. Sam stood beside Mark, watching the flashing lights. "We thought this was just an old building," Sam said. Mark nodded. "So did I." Leo looked at the theater entrance, now surrounded by officers. "What is in those boxes?" he asked. "Why hide them?" Mark did not have an answer. But he knew something important had been uncovered, and whatever it was, it had been waiting a long time for the wall to come down. That night, the town did not talk about anything else. Because one question spread faster than the dust from the bricks. What was happening inside a theater that was supposed to be closed, and why did someone work so hard to keep the truth hidden behind a wall? Morning arrived slowly on Maple Street, but the old theater was already awake. Police cars were parked along the road. Yellow tape blocked the sidewalk. Officers stood guard at every corner, keeping curious neighbors and reporters at a distance. Inside the building, the air felt heavy. City officials, investigators, and record experts moved carefully through the hidden room. They wore gloves and spoke in low voices. Every metal box was numbered and photographed before being touched. Nothing was rushed. Officer Reed, a calm man with gray hair, was in charge of the site. He had worked many years and had seen strange things, but this discovery made him uneasy. These boxes were not hidden by accident, he said. Someone planned this. The boxes were carried out one by one and placed on long tables in the lobby. Each label was written neatly. Dates, codes, short notes. A woman named Nina, an expert in old records, began sorting the contents. She opened box after box, checking papers and photos carefully. What she saw made her pause again and again. The papers looked like schedules, dates and times, movie titles that were never officially shown, names written in lists. Some names had small marks next to them. The photographs showed the same thing again and again. People entering the theater. People sitting in seats. People smiling near the screen. All of it looked normal at first. But Nina noticed patterns. These photos were taken over many years, she said to Officer Reed. Long after the theater closed. Officer Reed frowned. Are you sure the dates are correct? Yes, Nina said. The paper, the film, the image quality. Everything matches the dates on the boxes. Another investigator, Paul, examined the film reels. He set up old equipment and carefully played one of them. The screen flickered to life. The video showed the inside of the theater. The seats were clean. The lights worked. The screen was bright. People filled the room, talking and laughing like any movie crowd. But something felt wrong. There was no sound. Paul adjusted the controls. Still no sound. That is strange, he said. The film should have audio. They played another reel. Same thing. Clear images. No sound. In one video, the camera moved slowly across the audience. Faces turned toward the screen. Some smiled. Some looked serious. A few stared directly at the camera, as if they knew they were being recorded. Nina leaned closer. Pause it there. Paul paused the video. A man in the front row stared straight into the camera. His eyes looked tired. His smile looked forced. His hands were clenched tightly on the armrests. Nina felt a chill. That does not look like someone enjoying a movie. Outside, Mark and his crew waited near the fence. Reporters tried to talk to them, but the officers kept everyone back. Mark stood with Sam and Leo, watching the activity inside. Leo rubbed his hands together. I keep thinking about those photos, he said. Why hide them? Sam replied quietly. Maybe someone did not want the town to remember. Mark looked at the old sign above the door. Or maybe someone wanted to control what people knew. By noon, rumors spread through the town. Some people said the theater was used for secret events. Others said it was part of a private group. Some older residents claimed they had seen lights inside the building years ago but thought it was their imagination. One woman, Mrs. Allen, spoke to a reporter. I used to walk my dog at night, she said. Sometimes I heard noise from that place. Soft noise. Like people talking. I thought I was wrong. The reporter's eyes widened. Back inside, Nina found something that changed everything. At the bottom of one box, beneath photos and papers, was a small notebook. The cover was worn, but the writing inside was clear. It was a journal. Each page was dated. The writing was careful and steady. Nina read aloud to Officer Reed. Tonight, the audience arrived on time. Everyone followed the rules. No one asked questions. She turned the page. The wall must remain sealed. This place only works if no one knows. Officer Reed felt his heart beat faster. Who wrote this? Nina shook her head. There is no name. They continued reading. The films are not entertainment. They are tests. Observation is the goal. Paul stepped back from the screen. Tests of what? No one answered. Another page described repairs made to the building years after it was closed. Materials brought in at night. Workers paid in cash. Silence demanded. Then Nina reached a page that made her stop. Some guests do not return. The room went quiet. Officer Reed looked around. What does that mean? Nina swallowed. I do not know. But it is written more than once. The investigators checked the name lists again. Some names appeared only once. Some appeared many times. A few names had lines drawn through them. Paul whispered, what if those lines mean something? Officer Reed ordered a background check on every name they could read clearly. The city records team worked fast. Computers hummed. Phones rang. Within hours, a pattern appeared. Many of the names belonged to people who had moved away without explanation. Some belonged to people reported missing decades ago. Their cases were cold and unsolved. The realization hit hard. This was not just a mystery. It was something deeper. Something hidden in plain sight for years. Outside, the crowd grew larger. News channels reported non-stop. Maple Street became known across the nation. People argued online. Some demanded answers. Others demanded silence. Mark watched as officers carried boxes out of the building. He felt a weight in his chest. We did not just break a wall, he said softly. We opened something that was meant to stay buried. Sam nodded. Whatever happened here affected real people. Leo looked pale. And it happened right here in our town. As night fell again, the theater stood surrounded by lights and cameras. The hidden room was now empty, but its secrets were spreading fast. Officer Reed stood at the entrance and looked back inside one last time before leaving. He knew one thing for sure. This discovery was only the beginning. And when the truth finally came out, the nation would never look at abandoned places the same way again. The third day after the discovery felt heavier than the first two. Maple Street was no longer just a local story. News from all over the country focused on the old theater. People watched live reports, shared theories, and searched for any connection to the names found in the boxes. Inside the temporary command center set up near the site, Officer Reed studied a large board covered with notes. Photos were pinned beside printed lists of names. Red lines connected dates to locations. The pattern was becoming clearer, but the meaning behind it was still hidden. Nina sat at a table with stacks of papers. She had barely slept. Her eyes were tired, but her focus was sharp. These schedules repeat every few weeks, she said. Always at night. Always the same time window. Paul looked up from his laptop. I checked city permits. No official events were ever approved here after the closure. Officer Reed nodded. So everything was done without records. Another officer, Maya, entered the room with a folder. We found something else, she said. Power usage. She placed charts on the table. The theater was officially shut down, but electricity was still being used. Not enough to raise alarms, but steady. Someone kept the lights and equipment running. Nina leaned back. Careful planning. Outside, Mark returned to the site to collect tools that had been left behind. He was allowed in only with supervision. Walking through the lobby again felt strange. It no longer looked empty. It felt watched. Sam followed him quietly. I keep thinking about the films, Sam said. No sound. Just faces. Mark stopped near the entrance to the main hall. Those people did not know they were part of something wrong. Leo waited near the door, speaking to a reporter. When he saw Mark, he stepped away. I told them we just did our job, Leo said. But it does not feel that simple. Back at the command center, Nina opened another journal found in a different box. This one had fewer pages, but the writing was more personal. The audience believes they are safe here, one entry said. They trust the screen. That trust is useful. Nina felt uneasy. This person studied behavior, fear, control. Paul added, look at this entry. It mentions observation through hidden openings. Officer Reed frowned. Hidden openings where? Paul zoomed in on a scanned diagram found folded in the journal. It showed the theater layout. Behind the walls were narrow spaces, small viewing gaps, hidden paths. Maya shook her head. So someone watched the audience and recorded them, Nina added. The team decided to search the building again, carefully and completely. With permission, they brought in specialists to scan walls and ceilings. Late that afternoon, a discovery was made above the main hall. Behind a false panel near the ceiling, officers found a narrow walkway. It ran along the length of the room, hidden from below. Small openings faced the seats. Officer Reed stood beneath it, looking up. Someone stood up there. Paul climbed carefully with safety gear. He looked through one opening. You can see every seat clearly. Nina closed her eyes for a moment. That explains the camera angles. The silence that followed was heavy. Meanwhile, families across the country began contacting authorities. Some recognized faces from the released photos. A man from another state called in, saying his uncle had visited Maple Street years ago and never came back. A woman said her sister appeared in one photo taken years after she was last seen. Officer Reed listened to every call. The mystery was no longer just about a building. It was about people. That evening, Nina received a message from a historian named Clara. Clara had studied old social groups and private clubs. I think I know what this could be, Clara said during a video call. There were groups in the past that believed public spaces could be used for study without consent. They believed observation revealed truth. Officer Reed asked, were they legal? Clara shook her head. Some operated in secret. Most disappeared when laws changed. Nina asked, did they use theaters? Yes, Clara said. Because people feel safe there. They focus forward. They do not look back. The idea sent a chill through the room. Mark returned home that night and turned on the television. Every channel showed the same building, the same broken sign. He thought about the wall he had helped break. He felt proud for doing his job, but also uneasy. Sam called him later. Do you think we saved someone by opening that wall? Sam asked. Mark replied slowly. If the truth comes out, then yes. At the command center, Paul finally managed to restore sound from one of the films. The room filled with quiet breathing, shifting seats, soft whispers. Then a voice spoke calmly. Please remain seated. The message repeated. Nina covered her mouth. That voice is not from a movie. Officer Reed stood still. That is an instruction. They played more of the audio. The same message appeared at intervals. No shouting. No panic. Just control. Maya said softly, people trusted it. As the night grew late, Officer Reed gathered the team. We will release verified information only, he said. No rumors. No guessing. He looked at the board one more time. Someone built this system carefully. Someone believed they would never be found. Nina added, but walls do not last forever. Outside, the old theater stood quiet under bright lights. Its secrets were no longer hidden. Across the nation, people waited for answers. And deep inside the building, empty now, the space where the hidden room once stood felt different. As if the silence itself knew it had been discovered.